mob, welcome back to my channel. Aretha Brown here. What's up? Today we're going to be talking about the 17 everyday things that mob here that are super annoying. This is a video I've been wanting to do for a very long time, so it's going to be good. Just to be clear, like, I know there'll be people that'll be like, oh, these are like such tiny things, they're so minute, like they're not that bad, and I agree, like they're not that annoying individually, but over time, and like if you're encountering these things like your whole life, you know, they can get to you, that they'll build up and they'll slowly erode you down, and you know, it can break your spirit and your soul and all that stuff. So yeah, let's get into it. Just quickly as well, follow me on Instagram here to catch up on all the stuff that I don't talk about here, including looking at some of my art and other posts. So yeah. Point number one is unsolicited political discussions, questions, commentary. It's obviously like a case-by-case thing in the sense that, you know, time and place for all of this stuff. Obviously not every single person that asks me a political question is being annoying, because if you're in a classroom setting, you're at school, you're in an environment where you want questions to be asked, it's not bad. But I suppose my example of this is like a few months ago now, I was at a party, one of my friend's parties, and this girl, she was like so drunk. She came up to me and she was like, tell me about treaty, like just explain it. And I was like, girl, like time and place. Like I was here, you know, I was having a little bit to drink, getting my groove on, I was there with my friends, and I was like, you know, this is not the place. That's really heavy stuff. This puts me in a difficult position because it's like, as an activist, all I want people to do, especially white fellas, is to go up to mob and ask questions and listen and get engaged and support community. But that doesn't literally mean go up to every Aboriginal person and use this like Google, you know? Like, if you can't find it online and it's a last choice, then go up and talk to someone. But time and place, be aware of that, guys. The second thing, which people say all the time, I've got a feeling, you know, most mob, I've heard this one, it's like, you don't look Aboriginal. And oh God, it's just like, this question, whew, it really gets me on edge. And my example of this was actually like a few weeks ago at my university. There's like a dentist, and all the students get to use the dentist there. And I walked in and I was like, hey, like, can I book myself a spot, an appointment, you know, get these pearly whites checked? And the woman was like, oh yeah, like no worries, no, like how did you hear about us? And I was like, oh, you know what? I'm not going to say the name, but like this, which is like the Aboriginal Centre at my university, they recommended that I come here. And this woman was like, oh, like, consider yourself Aboriginal, do you? And I was like, nah, like I consider myself a frog. Like what is that even supposed to mean? And then to make it even weirder, this woman was like, oh yeah, like unfortunately, like she's like on her computer, she's like unfortunately, like I can't book you in because like there's, you know, our Aboriginal receptionist isn't here today. And I was like,
I know I speak Chinese.
What? Like I'm speaking English, you can understand me, I can understand you, like can you just book the appointment? I just need a normal dentist checkup. This woman's like, no.
Computer says no.
Can't do it. She's not here today. She's gonna need to like negotiate this stuff with you. And I was like, anyway, I'm getting off topic here, but yeah, it's like you don't look Aboriginal. And I talked about this in the last video about the way that mob look, and we are diverse. You know, mob encompass an entire continent. Of course mob are going to look different. The example that I used in my last video was like Europe. You know, if we compare a map of Europe in the size of Australia and we look at Australia, we realize how big we are, and we also realize how easy it is for us to understand geographical and cultural borders and boundaries and mass in Europe, but we can't do it here. So the points that I was making in my last video about Indigenous identity and how mob present can be summed up in 2 points. Number one, the environment affects how you look. Obviously, the closer you are to the equator, the darker you're going to be. That's like science. Yeah, like we can understand, like for example, in Italy, like, you know, Southern Italians have generally darker skin and darker features compared to Italian mob who are from the north, who have lighter features and lighter, you know, fairer complexion. And we can understand that there, but God forbid we could do it in an entire continent, you know? So yeah, environment affects how we look. And the other thing that contributed to mob having lighter skin is obviously colonization. And it's hard to explain briefly, but I'll insert this photo now. This is probably the most famous photo regarding like the stolen generations policy. But pretty much Australia wanted a, you know, mob to eventually become white. any step closer to being white was seen as being closer to the Australian ideal of what the perfect Australian looked like. This included policies like the Stolen Generation, the White Australia policy, a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, colonisation has a huge impact, and I'll be doing a whole other video on that, but yeah. Yeah, so when people say you don't look Aboriginal, it's like, well, what does an Aboriginal person even look like, you know? You're kind of continuing on this assumption that all mob are really dark skinned, we all live in the desert, and we're all one tribe, which is just the biggest myth in existence. The third thing that people always say, or that I hear all the time, is like people bring up blood quantum, or they bring up eugenics, and they bring up really gross, heavy stuff like that in really casual conversations. My example of this was, I was on a date a few months ago now, and we went out to dinner with this guy, and his friends came along, and we're at this pub having like a meal. And then one of his friends was like, we got into the discussion of like what I do and my activism and all that kind of stuff. And this guy was like, oh, like, you know, my great grandma, half removed or something, you know, was full-blooded Aboriginal. And I was like, full-blooded? Like, what a gross, uncomfortable term to use. Like, as soon as you start talking about blood, it gets weird. You know, like, who are you? Like, Draco Malfoy?
Filthy little mudblood.
Like, calm down with the blood. I'm trying to eat my meal here, you know? Just don't do it, you know? There's a long history of you know, people being obsessed with blood quantums and terms like half caste and half blood, and it's really uncomfortable. And again, it's a time and place kind of thing, but it's not something that can be used that flippantly. It's really uncomfortable. Like, you know who else like to talk about eugenics and the purity of race? Andrew Bolt, y'all. Don't do it. It's weird. My fourth point is people bringing up slurs, like, you know, Aborigine, Abo, COON, all that horrible stuff. I'm not even going to repeat those things because it makes me feel gross saying them, but you would be surprised how many people still say it. And honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I don't think, when I've heard people say them, I just don't think they knew any better. Yeah, so my example, like, I was at a party recently and I was talking to this dude there. We go to the same university, and he's like, hey, and I was like, hey, and I was like, oh, that's the rain. Ignore the rain. It's very loud. It's like pelting down. It sounds beautiful and calming, but just ignore it. So anyway, I was talking to this dude and I was like, hey, and he's like, hey, and I was like, yeah, like, I really want to start a band. Like, wouldn't it be cool if I started a band, like an all Aboriginal band? Like, that'd just be so cool. And he's like, oh yeah, like an all Abo band. And I was like, I was like flight or fight response. I was like, am I gonna fight you? Like, I don't fight people. I am such a little wimp. I'm all bone. But I was like physically angry. Like, I didn't know what to do. And I was like, and the worst thing is, I didn't even say, hey, you can't say that, because I was so shocked. This is coming from someone that, like, I talk about race 24/7. It's what, you know, it's what I like to talk about. But I couldn't be like, hey, that's really uncomfortable, because I was so taken back by it. Don't say the A word. Don't say Aborigine. Don't say any of those things, because it's just as offensive as the N word. And if you're not Aboriginal, you have no right to say them, to reclaim them, or to even contextualize them. You know, just don't even go there. So the fifth point is you must know this other Aboriginal person / you look like this other Aboriginal person. And this one comes up a lot. And it's kind of funny to me because it's like, obviously not all Aboriginal people know each other. Like, that's impossible. It's like the Aboriginal myth that we're all the one group. But at the same time, like, we kind of do all know each other. So like, it's kind of hard, that one. So it's just more kind of funny on your part to say. The other one is, yeah, you look like this other Aboriginal person. And this happened the other day, I kid you not. I was walking down the street with my cousin, and this white dude, he was walking in front of us, and he kind of looked back and he did like a double take, and he was like, oh my god, you two look, his exact phrasing actually, he's like, you two have the exact same face. And I was like, what, like anger? Like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, your faces are exactly the same. That's so weird. And I was like, okay, brilliant. Like, thank you for that compliment. Like, what does it even mean? Keep walking, dude. Like, who are you? And he was so taken back by it. And I was like, wait, we don't look the same at all, you know, very different, but to Aboriginal people, you know, he's there thinking we're like Siamese twins or something, so weird. My 6th point is when people say, my great half brother's mother's cousin, uncle's niece was half Aboriginal, or something, you know, equivalent. And there's nothing wrong with this per se, and it's a lot more subtle in its annoyance, and, you know, people wanting to connect through their lineage is not the problem within itself. It's just that, you know, conversations regarding Aboriginal lineage and family history and family trees can be very, very upsetting and very triggering for some mob, you know? I don't need to explain, you know, the historic reach of the stolen generations or the impact that had on mob because, you know, I don't want to go there just yet, but it's really heavy stuff. It's arguably some of the darkest moments in our country's history. And for people to kind of say something like this so flippantly, it comes from a place of wanting to connect, but it can get really uncomfortable really quickly, because it's like, okay, great. What do you want me to do with this information now? It's hard to kind of, you know, it's hard to talk about, and I think there has to be, you know, a sense of some sensitivity around it, you know. So this one's not really annoying, it's just something that I thought I would bring up. My 7th point is people always mention something about the Northern Territory when they're around me, which I think is like, it's funny. And again, I talked about this in my last video where I was, you know, debunking the 3 biggest myths. And this one is the assumption, again, it's the assumption that we all live in the outback, we're all dark skin, we're all one tribe, we're all desert mob, which couldn't be further from the truth. You know, today, post-colonization, there's over, you know, 250 Indigenous tribes here in Australia. And yeah, we're not all the same. And when people talk to me about the Northern Territory, I get what you're coming from, but at the same time, it's like, you know, I don't know what you're talking about. Like I said in my last video, statistically, 80% of mob actually live in the city as opposed to the desert. Like 80% of us live in regional parts of this country or in cities. So it's just hard, because if you're an Indigenous person living in the city today, you are virtually invisible to non-Indigenous folks. You know, it's like we don't exist, and yeah, that can be really hard. You don't need to travel anywhere to be part of an Aboriginal community. If you're living in Australia, you're already living in an Aboriginal community, regardless if you're living in the city or not. You don't need to go anywhere. Point number 8. You're one of the good ones. Oh my God. Yeah, this one is really upsetting, and I hear this one frequently as well. My example for this one is, so I speak at a lot of different schools just about my time as being Indigenous Youth PM, and I'm spilling the tea now, I'm gonna say it. So I was at Xavier College. I was speaking at Xavier College, and the principal, I did this presentation, it was all good, and this principal came up to me afterwards. And he was like, oh my God, like that was fantastic, good on you. And I was like, thank you. But he was like, you're one of the good ones, you're so good, you're not angry. Like that was his exact phrasing. And I was like, what is that supposed to mean? You know, as an Aboriginal person, as a young Aboriginal woman as well, I'm angry. I am furious, but I show my anger in very different ways. But who are you in such a lucky, privileged position to have a go at mob that are angry? Let us be angry, Jesus Christ, like let us be mad. If you were, you know, born in our shoes, you would be angry as well. And oh man, it's so offensive, because it's like, yeah, God forbid we're upset about our, you know, social political position in this nation. Which comes into my 9th point, which is like jokes at our own expense. It's the same example. So that principal, after he was like, you're one of the good ones, not angry, I kid you not, he was like, oh, so you didn't bring a boomerang today. And I get I get that it was a joke, you know, if anyone can take a joke, I can take a joke. But I was like, ooh, like that's, nah, bruh. Like, nah, man. Let me tell you, mob are funny. We're just a funny group of people. Like, I think when you're that, you know, when you're oppressed, you have to be, because that is your weapon. That is, you know, when you've got nothing else, you use humor to like scrutinize and to kind of, you know, take apart and take jabs at power structures and at institutions and at people, because that's kind of where you got left. And I think for that reason, you find that a lot of the most oppressed groups in the world are, very funny. Let us reclaim and rewrite these narratives and stereotypes even regarding ourselves, especially in how we joke and how we tell stories and stuff. So yeah, let us reclaim our own humor. Point number 10 is having to compare experiences back to you. This one is the bane of my existence. It's so annoying. It's so annoying. But it's when I'm explaining something heavy and a white person has to kind of follow that up with centering themselves back in the conversation. Like, my example of this is probably the most, obvious one, is like I was talking to this girl recently on the train about, what school was like and about my curriculum, because I'm always going on about that, and how there was virtually no Aboriginal history in school and how that, affected me as an Indigenous student. And her reaction to that, it wasn't to just listen and it wasn't to just take it in and just go, yeah, that really sucks. It was to be like, yeah, well, I was bullied really badly at school. And I was like, oh, I'm really sorry. That's really horrible. And I had to then comfort her about it, which is like fine, which is good. I've always, I love taking care of people, but you just gotta know when to not center yourselves in conversations, when to relinquish ego, and to just really listen to someone. Yeah. And this is like kind of classic liberal, whataboutism, where if you come forth with an argument or something you're passionate about, there's always someone being like, yeah, but what about, and then you derail the whole conversation and then nothing gets done. You see that repeated back in conversations where you're like, hey, what about treaty? Or like, let's get an Aboriginal flag flying on the harbour bridge because I haven't got that yet. And someone's like, yeah, but what about our farmers? And it's like, but you can care about more than one thing. Yeah, I don't know. I'm getting off topic here, but again, it's just like not centering yourselves in conversation and not making it back about you. If a mob is opening up to you and telling you something, just listen. Like, gee, consider yourself lucky, Just listen and don't make it about you. Number 11, you're so pretty for an Aboriginal. Oh my God. This one is just so gross. It's so gross. It's, the assumption goes that mob aren't, I suppose, good looking.
All women of every race can be beautiful. Yeah. And I know some of you are sitting there now going, oh, Trevor, yeah, but I've never seen a beautiful Aborigine. Yeah, but you know what you say? You say yet. That's what you say. Yet. Because you haven't seen all of them, right? And plus, it's not always about looks. Yeah. Maybe Aborigine women do special things. Yes. Maybe they'll just like jump on top of you and just be like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
And therefore, you're this exception. But it's not a compliment, I've got a secret to tell you all, and you can't tell anyone else this. Aboriginal people are literally the most beautiful people in the world. Full stop. Okay? Like, if there's anything I know to be true, it's that. Okay? Think of Descartes, like, what was his quote again? I'm Aboriginal, therefore I am beautiful. Okay? Like, that's Victoria's Secret. Victoria's Secret is that Aboriginal people are the most beautiful people in the world. And I feel bad that y'all don't know that. I feel bad that white people don't know that, okay? You're missing out. I mean, we're gorgeous, okay? So, yeah. Stop with that weird-ass compliment, okay? The next point is when people talk about things and use words such as genocide, mass murder, massacres, like just really... this one just really bugs me because it's like, it's just a lot. I always say this leading up to Invasion Day, but it's where white people, I suppose in like an attempt to make their argument stronger around the day, will use these really heavy words like, and I'm only going to say it once, forgive me, because I don't even like saying these words, but things like, yeah, murder, massacre, rape, really big things like that, so flippantly in social media posts and in conversations, yeah, to make their argument stronger. And during a protest on banners, I think it's, in my opinion, that's a context where it's very valid and very justified. But you know, I'll go through posts and it'll be like, oh my God, like, why would you want to celebrate a day of genocide and murder? And it's like, oh, like, I think people forget sometimes is that certain words have weight to them, like, you know, really big stuff. And what happens is once people start using it on social media, it creeps into conversations, and oh, it's a lot. Like, I remember this one time I was talking to this woman, and I was like, you know, how's it going, blah, 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 blah. I was doing an interview with her, and she was like, oh, like, you know, I've just been spending the last few weeks mapping out some of the massacre sites here in Victoria. And I was like, oh, like, brilliant, you know? And this was just like small talk, you know? It's like, don't bring up that stuff during small talk. You would never bring up the Holocaust with a Jewish person as like, hey, like, how are you going? What have you been up to lately? Because, you know, you think about it, yeah. You can still make your argument strong, and you can still make really valid political statements, simple ones as well, that don't need to use these words that, you know, I don't think we understand the weight of. It's just a bit cringy. It can get really cringy. And my next point is when people will just mention like any random thing they know about Aboriginal culture. And my example of this is I was talking to one of my friend's mums, and this was a few years ago now, keep in mind. And we got on the same old conversation, what are you? And I was like, oh, you know, I'm Aboriginal. And this woman was like, tea towels. And I was like, huh? And she's like, tea towels. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, so I recently just brought some, you know, these beautiful Aboriginal tea towels from the NGV gift store. And I was like, oh, wonderful, you know, like, cool. Like, it's all good. Like, relax, chill out. You don't need to like get woke points. You know, you don't have to be like, sapphires, Jessica Malboy, it's dot painting, you know. It's fine, calm down. You don't need to mention these things to like, you know, prove you're not racist. Unless you like come out straight to telling me you're racist, I'm probably gonna assume just because I'm a good person that you're not racist. It's fine. Calm down, y'all. It is funny though. The next point is when people get, really defensive, kind of out of nowhere. I remember my example of this, I was coming home from the city one night, saw this boy from my university who I kind of knew, but I was like, just be nice. I was like, hey, how's it going? He's like, good. What have you been doing tonight? And I was like, oh, I just did this art exhibition. It was just really cool, Indigenous Artist. I was really loving it. But yeah, it was like a really heavy night. You know, obviously the subject matter and some of the artworks were, you know, it was intense, but, you know, it was really powerful. And this boy was like, whoa, I'm not apologizing. I was like, oh. He's like, yeah, no, why should I have to apologize for what my ancestors did? Like, I'm not gonna do that. And I was like, oh, like, it's okay, like, it's fine, like, you know. What? Like, it came out of nowhere, and he was so defensive, and I could almost see it, like, physically. He was like, well, I had nothing to do with it. This was 200 years ago, you know? And I was like, I wasn't having a go, I was just telling you that's how I felt about the night. But it became this, like, personal jab and personal attack at him, and everything that his identity had kind of been, you know, born out of. And it was just kind of strange. And so I suppose I can't tell people not to get defensive because, you know, I can't control how other people act or how other people feel or behave. But I suppose getting defensive is something that I experience all the time as an activist. And it's honestly one of the hardest things to get over. The biggest challenge I have doing this, really honestly, is getting white people to admit to privilege. You know, once you can get white people to admit to privilege, then they can help. You know, that's kind of how it goes. You got to admit you have something, so then you can, you know, help other people. But it's this defensiveness which is so hard to kind of get over. You know. And it's funny to me, the most oppressed peoples are the first people to kind of admit which privileges they have, you know? As an Aboriginal queer woman, I've hit, you know, the jackpot in terms of minority status, but even I could admit, you know, I'm light-skinned, there's privilege in that, I live in the city, there's privilege in that, you know, and I'm doing really okay, I'm doing really well, you know? And the more privileged you are, the harder it is to kind of admit that, you know? But it's this real anger and defensiveness because suddenly you're not just criticizing, you know, one aspect of someone's life. You're criticizing their work ethic and their family's work ethic and history, and it's like, it's huge, and that's the biggest problem I have. And people just need to learn, I think, to relinquish ego and to just own it that you have privilege, so then you can help people, you know. It doesn't make you less of a person, you know. Me being like, yeah, I'm really light skinned and I live in the city doesn't make me less Indigenous, and it doesn't mean that you've worked less, but you've got to admit that you have something in order to help. The next point is people who, like, I suppose, want to be congratulated for helping mob, which I know people are going to be like, yeah, but at least they're helping, and it's like, that's true, but honestly, there's only so much thanking. There's only so much, like, kind of congratulations I can offer to someone for doing things that they should have always been doing. You know, people message me all the time, and I'm not having a go, because if you're getting involved, good fucking on you. But people being like, I did this, I did that, you know, I helped this person, and I went and learnt this, which is brilliant, good on you, but I just don't think it's right for me to be expected or to be obligated to be like, I'm gonna kiss the ground you walk on. Like, ally, you won allyship. You just won it. Congratulations. We all clap now because you're the best ally. And it's like, no, just like be a decent human being, and sometimes you gotta just do nice things and not expect anything in return for it. It's like celebrities. When celebrities donate money to charities, it's like, do they do that for their own ego? But at the same time, they still donated to charity, so they did a good thing. So it's hard, but I don't know. Just don't expect us to be like, hey, you did that really normal, decent thing you should have always been doing for mob. Join the club. You're Aboriginal now, man. But yes, like I say in every video, if you're living in Australia, you're already living inside an Aboriginal community, and it's up to you to work out who that mob is and to get involved. There's literally no excuse to not kind of be invested in this if you're living on Aboriginal land. Yeah, so just don't want to be thanked for every little thing you do, because, you know, there's a lot to be done and we won't get anywhere. So yeah. My next point is people that only talk to me and to other mob about political issues. Like, that's the only reason they kind of talk to us. And I get this all the time. Like, I have people that only reach out to me when they want a question asked, and it ties in again to, like, you know, the overarching theme of like unsolicited political questions and discussions. And yeah, it makes you feel as though you don't have any other worth unless it's to kind of help educate someone else. It's really, you know, it can be really annoying sometimes, and I just think that we need to remember that if an Aboriginal person, you know, trusts you enough to open up and talk about histories and stories and experiences, often regarding things that are going to be heavy, consider that a gift. That is such a privilege to be able to get that, you know, and to kind of expect that, and to kind of make people feel like it's their obligation to tell you, otherwise they're just going to go around being racist. It's wrong, you know. It puts us in an uncomfortable position. I don't know, this last one it's really tricky, because it's like, on one hand, I have such cognitive dissonance, because, like, again, on one hand, obviously we're multifaceted people, and you can like a bunch of stuff that isn't connected to your culture. Like, I love Mick Jagger, he's my favourite person in the world. I love the Rolling Stones, I love British pop, I love cooking, I love, you know, heaps of stuff that is not connected to Indigenous culture at all, because, you know, we're multifaceted people and we like other things as well. But at the same time, it's like, I can't help but, I can only see things through an Indigenous lens, which is gonna, unfortunately, always be political, you know? I can't consume any media, can't watch any film or any book without looking at it through an Indigenous black lens, you know? So it's kind of hard, because sometimes if you want to escape culture, you can't. Yeah, it's tricky. And this point is summed up perfectly, I think, by James Baldwin, who, you know, I mention him in like every video, but he is the GOAT. He is the greatest of all time. So James Baldwin back in 1968 appeared on an episode of the Dick Cavett Show. That's how it's written here. I don't know how you pronounce it. Have a look.
All this emphasis upon black man and white does emphasize something which is here, but it emphasizes it or perhaps exaggerates it, and therefore makes us put people together in groups which they ought not to be in. I have more in common with a black scholar than I have with a white man who's against scholarship. And you have more in common with a white author than you have with someone who's against all literature. So why must we always concentrate on color or on religion or this? There are other ways of connecting men.
I don't know what most white people in this country feel, but I can only include what they feel from the state of their institutions. I don't know if white Christians hate Negroes or not, but I know that we have a Christian church which is white and a Christian church which is black. I know, as Malcolm X once put it, that the most segregated hour in American life is high noon on Sunday. That says a great deal for me about a Christian nation. It means that I can't afford to trust most white Christians and certainly cannot trust the Christian church. I don't know whether the labor unions and their bosses really hate me. That doesn't matter, but I know I'm not in their unions. I don't know if the real estate lobby is anything against black people, but I know the real estate lobbies keep me in the ghetto. I don't know if the Board of Education hates black people, but I know the textbooks they give my children to read and the schools that we have to go to. Now, this is the evidence. You want me to make an act of faith, risking myself, my wife, my woman, my sister, my children, on some idealism which you assure me exists in America, which I have never seen.
So pretty much what that video was saying, to paraphrase, that white scholar was like, hey, why don't we connect on levels that aren't to do with race? You know, it's this idea of like colorblindness. You know, he's like, I have more in common with a black scholar than I do a white person that isn't a scholar. You know, why are we so focused on race? And then James Baldwin, like the legend he is like, you know, I can't do that because when I send my kids to school, I read their textbooks and I can't connect through education because our education system is racist. I can't connect through church because our church is racist. Yeah, he talks about unions and how he can't even connect through his work because unions are segregated. And for me, that really stands out because I always get this question. People will be like, Aretha, you're so focused on race, man. Just don't focus on race so much. We're all just fluid beings, you know? Like, let's just focus on, we can connect on other levels. But it's the same thing. It's like, okay, well, let's connect on sport. Okay, cool. When I watch the AFL, I see Adam Goodes being booed. Okay, let's connect on art. Okay, cool. When I go to the NGV, I see that the Indigenous curator isn't even Indigenous. Okay, well, let's connect on, education. Go to school, and my textbooks it's a skewed version of our history. Okay, well, let's connect through literature. And I go, okay, great. And then I look at someone like Bruce Pascoe, a legendary Aboriginal Australian writer, get completely beaten down by someone like Andrew Bolt based on the status of his Aboriginality. So when people say, let's not talk about race, let's connect on another level, it's infuriating because race is connected to everything because you can't help your race. You know what I mean? It's tricky. Yeah. And I suppose I said that I had 17 points, but I've gotten all my number system wrong, so I think it's more like 16. I'm sorry for the false advertising. But yeah, I suppose my takeaway point is, we need to let go of our egos, we need to admit to privilege, we gotta really listen when people ask, and we can't expect mob to be these walking Google that we can just summon at any time to be like, oh, what is that question I have about assimilation? We can just ask that one Aboriginal person I know, they'll know all about it. And it's like, oh man, that's like emotional labor I don't want to deal with, that's heavy shit. Read a book, Yeah, and so if you can take anything from this, fantastic. I've given you a lot, But yeah, I suppose these are some of the most annoying things I encounter all the time. If you've got some other ones that you hear as well, write it down below. I'd love to know. And yeah, thanks for watching, you guys. Thanks for watching.